It's Monday morning, 6:17 a.m. Your alarm has already gone off twice. The gym clothes you laid out last night are still folded neatly on the chair. The business idea you promised yourself you'd work on before your job starts is still sitting inside a notes app called My Future. And for the third time this week, you're having the exact same conversation with yourself. Just 5 more minutes. You already know what happens next. 5 minutes become 30, 30 become an hour. And by lunchtime, you've already decided that today isn't the day your life changes. Again. What's strange isn't that this keeps happening. What's strange is that every single time, it feels like you're making a choice. It feels like you're choosing to quit, choosing to procrastinate, choosing to stay comfortable, choosing to stay exactly the same. But what if you're not? What if the person sabotaging your motivation isn't you at all? What if it's the very thing that's been trying to protect you your entire life? Because here's the uncomfortable truth nobody tells you about motivation. Your brain doesn't care about your dreams. It never did. And once you understand why, you'll never look at your failures the same way again. Think back to the last time you felt truly motivated. Maybe it was January 1st. Maybe it was after a breakup. Maybe it was after watching a video that convinced you your entire life could change. For a moment, you felt unstoppable. You wrote goals. You made plans. You imagined waking up 6 months later as a completely different person, more disciplined, more confident, more successful. And then something happened. The feeling disappeared. The goals became heavy. The routine became exhausting. And slowly, almost invisibly, you returned to the exact person you promised yourself you'd never become again. At first, you blamed motivation. Then you blamed discipline. Eventually, you blamed yourself. And that's where millions of people get trapped. Because once you believe you're the problem, every failure becomes proof. Proof that you're lazy. Proof that you're weak. Proof that maybe some people are born with something you simply don't have. But let me ask you a question. If you're truly lazy, why does failing hurt so much? Why do you spend hours imagining a better version of yourself? Why do you feel guilty when you waste time? Why do you keep trying? Because lazy people don't lose sleep over wasted potential. People with dreams do. Which means maybe the problem was never laziness. Maybe the problem was that you've been fighting against a brain that was never designed to help you achieve your goals. In the first place, imagine you're a human being living 50,000 years ago. You have one job: stay alive. If you waste energy, you die. If you take unnecessary risks, you die. If you ignore what kept you alive yesterday, you die. So over thousands of generations, your brain became incredibly good at one thing: protecting you, not helping you succeed, protecting you. And here's where things become strange. Your brain still thinks it's living in that world. It doesn't know the difference between being chased by a predator and sending an uncomfortable email. It doesn't know the difference between physical danger and social rejection. To your brain, uncertainty is uncertainty, and uncertainty feels dangerous, which means every time you try to change your life, your brain activates the same ancient system that's been keeping humans alive for thousands of years. Avoid, delay, retreat, stay safe. Think about how many dreams have been destroyed by those two words: stay safe. Because safety feels good. Safety feels familiar. Safety feels like the person you've always been. And becoming someone new, that's terrifying. Not because you're afraid of success, because you're afraid of becoming someone unfamiliar. But here's the part that shocks psychologists. Human beings will fight to preserve their identity, even when that identity makes them unhappy. Read that again. People protect who they believe they are, even when that belief is destroying their lives. That's why someone who believes they're not disciplined struggles to build habits. It's why someone who secretly believes they'll fail often creates the exact conditions needed to fail. Because your brain values certainty more than happiness. For years, you've probably been saying, "I'm just a procrastinator. I've never been disciplined. I always lose motivation." And every time you say those words, your brain records them, not as observations, as instructions. Eventually, those instructions become identity, and identity becomes reality. Suddenly, your failures aren't random anymore. They're predictable, because your brain isn't trying to help you succeed. It's trying to help you remain yourself. Which leads to one of the strangest truths about motivation. Motivation itself is mostly a lie. Not because it doesn't exist, because you've been taught to think about it backwards. Most people believe action follows motivation, but psychology suggests the opposite. Action creates motivation far more often than motivation creates action. Do you wait until you're motivated? No. You do it because that's who you are. Think about checking your phone. Do you need inspiration? No. You do it automatically. Because your brain doesn't run on motivation, it runs on identity and patterns. The entrepreneur builds businesses because that's who they are. The athlete trains because that's who they are. The writer writes because that's who they are. Their identity comes first. Their feelings come second. So what happens if you stop asking, how do I stay motivated, and start asking, what would the person I'm trying to become do right now? Not tomorrow, not next Monday, right now. Because the person you're trying to become doesn't negotiate with every decision. They don't wait for inspiration. They don't ask permission from their feelings. They simply act. Not because it's easy, not because they're special, because that's who they believe they are. And maybe that's the truth nobody ever told you. Your brain was never trying to destroy your dreams. It was trying to protect the person you've always been. The real challenge was never finding motivation. It was proving to yourself that becoming someone new was finally safe.